Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Nathan Brown, and today's guest needs no introduction because he is known for the greatest introduction in all of college sports. He has been known as the voice of college sports. He's a Lester Jordan Award and Jake Award winner, multi-time Emmy Award winner, CNIS alum, and proud member of the CNIS Hall of Fame. He is one of Alabama's own, earning the degree from the very place he now returns to set the stage for the biggest basketball game in the state of Alabama history. Our guest today, the legendary Rece Davis.
Nathan, thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I try my best to emulate some things that you may be doing, but we're going to get right into it, and we're going to start with a new segment. And this one is called Delay of Game. So you have 40 seconds to answer 8 questions before getting the delay of game penalty.
40 seconds for all 8 questions?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
So that means you need to be on your feet quick, and I won't hold you back with how I'm answering the questions.
Okay.
Ready to go? Timer? 3, 2, 1, go. Favorite restaurant?
Chuck's Fish.
Favorite athlete growing up?
Archie Manning.
First word you think of when you hear March Madness?
Basketball.
Loudest stadium you've been in?
Loudest stadium is Bryant-Denny.
Favorite pre-show tradition?
Talking to the crowd.
Best game you witnessed live?
Alabama-Georgia National Championship, Tua to Devontae.
Favorite sports movie?
Hoosiers.
Location of your best game day intro?
James Madison.
Excellent.
Did I make it?
Excellent. We said we are in.
Yeah.
So taking us into College Game Day, we'll take it to the football side of things first. Just how were you able to get a part of that show, and just what does that show particularly mean to you, and not only from your career, but just from a personal standpoint?
I think because it's become such a part of the fabric of college football, and the Saturdays that are sort of a communal gathering. Everybody builds to a singular day, and that show has become part of that day. It's almost as if the college football day doesn't start until we come on the air, and they really can't kick off until Lee Corso puts on the mascot head,
Yeah.
So I think being a part of that and feeling the energy and excitement, the pride that fans across the country have in their school and in their team, and to be able to share that on our show, that they deem our show worthy as the platform that they want to come out and yell a lot and make crazy signs and react is very gratifying, and it's a lot of fun to do.
Now with the Game Day basketball show, me personally, I feel like you don't get enough credit or as much credit for doing that show as you do on the football side of things, especially, of course, with all the other adjacent shows to the football Game Day show. But just your role in the inception of that, because you've been in it since it debuted. So just a part of that planning, how did that show come about, and your role specifically?
Well, I think that, when they saw the success of Game Day football and college basketball has been such a huge part of ESPN's culture and growth since it came on the air in 1979, that it's sort of part of the DNA of the network, and they wanted to do something similar to what they had in football in terms of a pregame show. And, to be able to work with Jay Billis since 2005, he and I worked together even a few years before that in the studio, is, something that has been just awesome for my career. I mean, he's one of my closest friends. He's a guy that you can trust on the air and off. And when you can, work together to build something that we feel like has been successful and has been important to the sport, along with all of the other people who have been vitally important in building that, from Seth and Jay Will and Andrea now, and then before that, Digger Phelps. Digger Phelps joined that show late after Rick Majerus, who was supposed to be with Billis and me on the show, ended up going back to coaching, and that turned out to be a stroke of genius because Digger was tremendous on that show for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And Hubert Davis and Jalen Rose and a number of people that we've had over the years, the show has been very successful. It's been fun. It's a different show than football because the volume of basketball on television is huge, and it's every night, and so that makes it a little bit of a different needle to thread in terms of how you put the show together. But it's it's a lot of fun to do. It's very gratifying. It feels intimate, because I guess of just the space that we have. So it's been great, and I've really enjoyed doing it.
So as you look forward to this weekend, Auburn versus Alabama, this matchup specifically, you've seen the history of this game and how it's developed over the years. Many people never saw it reaching this magnitude on a national scale. It's always been a rivalry, but it doesn't have the same tradition as on the football side of things. Just how have you seen this matchup from a program standpoint, as well as just from all the things that go into building up, you guys coming into town, all those things that kind of go into the pageantry of making a rivalry? How have you seen that evolve over the years on the basketball side?
It is a rivalry that has gone from having great players, great personalities, and great passion within the state to being one that is now relevant because of success and because both programs are elite. Just speaking from the SEC standpoint, of the last 8 basketball trophies the SEC has awarded, regular season or tournament, Alabama or Auburn have won 6 of them. Within the last 5 tournaments, remembering that we didn't have a tournament one year, within the last 5 tournaments, each has been to the Final Four. So I think when you have those marks of validation, going to the Final Four, cutting down nets, winning conference championships, doing so consistently, recruiting at a high level, it allows your rivalry to become something more than hoping you can brag to the guy in the next cubicle or your next door neighbor or your spouse or whatever, that it's more than bragging rights. It carries significance across the sport. And I think, that's what we're going to see in this game. And it's going to be great theater.
We definitely hope it lives up to the bill. And of course, on the football side of things, it's such a rich tradition. And even though this game has a larger magnitude, something we've never seen, it takes years to build that type of tradition. It takes years to build that level of hate that we see on the football side of things. But in your perspective, you talked about some of the things like Final Fours, like those SEC championships. I was actually in attendance when we did the Final Four reveal here. And I was underwhelmed by the support that we had for such a historic event on the basketball side of things, especially as it was still during football season. What do you think kind of defines making a program a basketball school, or being able to have that appreciation for that school?
Well, I don't think that you have to be one or the other. You can be good at a lot of things, and I think that the athletic program here wants to excel at everything they attempt. Basketball, we're going to have a great crowd there. People are paying $400 or $500 a pop just to get in the building, and you're still talking about 15,000 people, and you're almost, not quite, but say 9 times that size with football. So you have a little bit of a difference in intensity sometimes just by magnitude or number of fans that are around. And you're right, it does take some time, but I think there's a pretty deep and devoted appreciation for Alabama basketball that's pretty widespread among its fans. It's more important, the way I described it prior to this recent ascension to people who would ask, do they care, is that they've always been better than you think, and they care more than you believe they do. I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend that they're Kentucky or North Carolina, or Indiana. It's not like that, but I do think that now that they've gotten a taste of winning, and they've gotten a taste of achieving at the highest level regularly, that's when the expectation comes along. And with that expectation comes a little bit more dedication, maybe a little bit more excitement. So, I think that what Nate Oates has been able to do here is nothing short of phenomenal, because he hasn't just put together good teams, he's put together a great program. And, one that went to the Final Four last year, had a great chance to do it the year before that, and another great chance to do it this year. So anytime, it's difficult to win those games. And all of those games in a row, there's a little bit of a luck factor that goes into it. But if you keep getting there, sooner or later, you got a chance to win it. So I think that's what they've been able to accomplish here.
And I think the great part about this matchup specifically is we know we're going to get it twice. Could get it 3 times.
Could get it 4 times. That's right.
If you were able to get that type of matchup in a Final Four, what do you think that experience would be like?
Well, for years, North Carolina and Duke sort of dreaded the day that they would meet in the Final Four, because there was this feeling, according to people closely connected with that it would give the winning side the ultimate bragging rights forever, and it might be, the bruise from which you would never recover. And if you remember just, 3 seasons ago, North Carolina beat Duke in Coach K's final game in Cameron Indoor. Then they met in the Final Four for the first time in their long and storied histories, and North Carolina beat them again. Now here we are a few years later, and Duke has a great chance to win the national championship. They bounced right back. They got players. They kept on playing. There was another season and another game. So if Alabama and Auburn were to meet in the Final Four, it would provide great bragging rights for whoever wins that. It would be a bit of a bragging rights trump card, but it by no stretch of the imagination signals the end for the other. So it would be great, and certainly the winning side would rub it in the face of the losing side for quite some time. But that tends to last until the next time you win.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody around here do anything except kind of get mad about kick six? Now they want to talk about the Gravedigger or Bryce Young's drive, you know? So these things come around and they even out, and what seems like the be-all, end-all bragging rights moment usually isn't that, because you have another opportunity. But it would be quite something to see these two meet in the Final Four.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to talk to you about before wrapping up today is, as someone who aspires to have success in the profession that you have, as well as a man of faith myself, I've seen you be a part of a lot of special moments for a lot of athletes, coaches, individuals. And so something I recognized was, as you were hosting the presentation of the college football playoffs, you were doing an interview with Will Howard. Mm-hmm. You have such a unique perspective of being able to have that individual association identity for yourself, but then to hear that while also maintaining your own professionalism. I just wanted to get your unique perspective of what your thoughts were in that moment as you were doing that interview with Will Howard.
I thought, and it wasn't just Will, it had come up a few weeks earlier when I'd gone to Columbus to talk to Ryan Day prior to the Tennessee game, and they were in the throes of despair because, again, sort of like we were talking about a minute ago, they'd lost to a rival, sky's falling, fire the coach, nothing will ever be the same, and I'd noticed over the course of the season that there had been a resurgence of faith on campus, and much of it was led by the Ohio State players, to the point that, they were baptizing people, like not just on the team, people that they interacted with in campus. And Emeka Ibuka was, and Travion Henderson, a number of other guys were among the leaders of that. And I'd spoken to Emeka about it when I went to Columbus, and it was really apparent from talking to him that was really a defining thing, an important part of what pulled them together and held them together in a difficult time. Now, I realize that there are scoffers who will look at that and maybe dismiss its importance. I happen to believe it's quite important. I happen to believe it's the most important thing in a person's life. But I also recognize that it was very important to them, and they believed it. And as it pertained to sports, which, and I want to be clear, I don't think the Lord ordains who's going to win or lose, because Notre Dame was also a team of faith. But it was important to them in that it helped them to be unselfish, because the values that they aspired to live helped them be better teammates. It helped them get through adversity. It helped them pull together when things had gone badly. And all of those things were important to them. And that was why I brought it up. It was because it was I thought it was a really significant part of their story. And that was sort of my thought process in bringing it up, because they had been very open and courageous in espousing that over the course of the entire season, dating back to fall camp, but particularly in the aftermath of the Michigan game and the run through the playoff.
Well, thank you for that. As both a student and a young professional, not only as admiration of your work, but just how you continue to give back to us and the service that you've done, of course, labeled the voice of college athletics. So just how you've been able to use your voice to address a number of things is just something that's truly admirable. I'll be remiss if we ended the episode without me giving a shout out to Dr. Lisa Rivers. She was the one that actually encouraged me to reach out to you the first time. So, she's always in my corner, so she'll be glad to hear from you.
Likewise. I actually owe her nephew an appearance on the podcast, which I'm going to do. So there's that too.
Thank you for appearing on this one, and that's all for our episode. And
thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right.